The world had long since fallen silent. Cities stood as ghostly silhouettes against rust-colored skies, their windows dark and streets littered with the relics of lives once lived. And within the decaying heart of what used to be called the Western Corridor, a narrow strip of land known only as the Dead Zone, one last hope flickered to life. Eli Navarro had learned not to trust hope. In the Dead Zone, hope got people killed. Yet on this particular morning, something shifted. Something different vibrated through the static of the old shortwave radio he kept hidden beneath the rusted metal sheet in his bunker's back wall. His fingers froze over the tuning dial. There it was again, a faint pattern, a pulse, not random noise. 3 long beeps. 2 short. 1 long. Morse code. He scribbled down the sequence, heart thumping. His sister Wren looked up from her post by the door, crossbow loaded and eyes sharp. "You okay?" she asked, noticing the change in his breathing. "Maybe," he said, not quite believing it himself. "I think I just found something." Wren crossed the room in 2 quick strides. Her hair was tied back in a tight braid, her face smudged with ash, but her eyes were alive with the same thing Eli feared, belief. "What kind of something?" He showed her the code and pointed to the map sprawled across the table. A faded grid, hand-marked with every safe zone that had fallen. The Dead Zone had swallowed them all. But there, just beyond the outer ridge, was a small, unmarked patch. No ruins. No old towns. Just trees and hills. And now, a signal from somewhere inside it. "It came from here," Eli whispered. Wren stared at the point. "That's suicide. No one crosses Sector 9 and comes back." "Someone did," he replied. "Or we wouldn't have heard that." Outside, the wind howled through the cracked asphalt canyons. They had survived almost 2 years in this zone, avoiding patrols of the undead and what remained of the Marauder clans. But food was running out. Ammunition, scarcer still. They couldn't last another winter. The others, fewer than a dozen now, were starting to give up. Later that night, under the safety of blackout sheets and whisper-thin moonlight, Eli called a meeting in the underground storeroom. The room was filled with tired faces. Dana, the ex-firefighter who now doubled as their medic. Beck, the sharp-eyed mechanic with a shattered ankle who hadn't walked since the Midtown collapse. And Leo, the boy who had lost his parents 2 days into the outbreak, now 14 and already too good with a knife. Eli spread the map on a crate and circled the unknown patch. "I picked up a signal this morning. Morse code. It's coming from here." The room fell still. For a moment, no one breathed. Dana broke the silence. "You sure it's not a trap? Could be bait from the Bone Hounds. They've been luring people east." "It's not a clan signal," Wren cut in. "It was military-grade frequency. Hidden deep." Beck grunted. "Military's been gone 5 years, Navarro. We all saw the fall." "Maybe not all of them," Eli said. "Someone out there's still alive. Still fighting." A long silence passed. Then Leo stepped forward, clutching his journal, the same one he'd been sketching in since the outbreak. "If there's even a chance, we should go." Dana sighed and looked at the others. "If we move, it's all or nothing. We're out of backup options." Eli nodded. "That's why we're going. Not running, we're following a map no one else has. A signal no one else hears." The next morning, the survivors packed what little they had left. Rations, gear, silent weapons, and 2 old solar chargers. Beck was rigged up on a makeshift cart, pulled by Dana. They left behind the safety of their concrete haven and stepped into the ash-gray streets of the Dead Zone. The silence was different today. Not peaceful, but watchful. Like something beneath the surface had stirred. They moved in formation, always 3 watching while 2 moved. Every block covered took them farther from what they knew, and deeper into the heart of the unknown. By dusk, they reached the first checkpoint, an old sewer grate at the base of a collapsed mall. That's when Leo stopped. "Do you hear that?" The others froze. A sound, a faint humming, mechanical and rhythmic, rose from below the grate. Eli knelt and placed his ear to the rusted surface. It wasn't just a sound. It was a signal. And this time, it was repeating coordinates. The sewer grate groaned as Eli pried it open, revealing a narrow tunnel choked with damp air and the scent of rust and time. Ren descended first, flashlight in hand, sweeping the tunnel slowly. The walls were concrete, covered in old moss and scratched with markings, some deliberate, some desperate. The humming signal grew louder the deeper they went, not like a machine, but a pulse, steady and calculated. Leo followed close behind, notebook clutched against his chest, scribbling down symbols carved into the walls as they passed. Dana helped beckon to the tunnel, carefully lowering his wheeled rig onto the slippery slope. Eli took one last look at the street above, silent, dead, watching, then closed the grate behind them. As their feet echoed through the darkness, a soft voice crackled through Eli's radio. "If you found this tunnel, you're not alone. Follow the markings. Do not trust the light." They all froze. Dana's eyes widened. "Was that live?" "Could be a loop," Eli said, though his voice lacked conviction. The tunnel led them deeper underground, eventually splitting into 3 passageways. The group paused, eyes scanning the crumbling walls. Leo pointed to a red triangle etched beside the leftmost path. "There. That's the same marking I saw at the grate." "I've seen it before," Ren added. "On old supply crates. Could be military." Beck's voice was low. "Or scavenger codes. Could mean danger." "Or the only way forward," Eli countered. They took the left path. Minutes turned into an hour as they crept through the dark. The deeper they went, the more markings appeared, triangles, arrows, and occasionally, numbers. The signal pulsed stronger now, and with it, came something else, the faint scent of fuel and warm metal. The tunnel finally opened into a small maintenance hub, lined with abandoned terminals and cracked monitors. An old emergency power light blinked overhead, casting the room in a sickly red glow. Leo stepped up to the nearest screen. Static. Then, suddenly, text began to crawl across the glass. "If you see this, you're close. Keep moving. They're watching." Dana backed away slowly. "Who's they?" Ren spun around, crossbow raised. "We're not alone." From the far end of the room, a loud clank echoed down the corridor. Everyone dropped into cover. A low groan followed, echoing and inhuman. Eli motioned toward the opposite tunnel exit. "Move now, quiet." They hurried through the far end, Beck bumping the wall as Dana struggled to keep the cart stable. Behind them, the groan turned into a scraping sound, like something dragging itself against concrete. The sound twisted, wet and slurred. Not a zombie, they all knew those sounds by now. This was something else. Half running, half crawling, the group followed the markings through another tunnel until the path opened into a concrete shaft. At the center of the room stood a ladder bolted into the wall, reaching up through a narrow shaft. Above, a sliver of daylight. Finally, Ren breathed. Eli went up first, heart pounding. As he pushed open the rusted hatch, sunlight blinded him. When his eyes adjusted, he gasped. They weren't in Sector 9 anymore. They stood in a long-forgotten rail yard, overgrown with vines and shrubs. Beyond it lay a clearing, green, untouched, impossible. Trees swayed in the wind. Birds chirped. The air was clean. Ren emerged behind him, stunned. "How, is this real?" The others climbed up, one by one, each of them breathless. It was the first time any of them had seen green in 2 years. Leo dropped to his knees, running his hands through the grass. This wasn't on any map. Because someone didn't want it to be, Eli whispered. In the distance, they spotted structures, low, camouflaged buildings, reinforced with metal and earth. Smoke curled from a chimney. A solar panel glinted on a rooftop. "Could be where the signal's coming from," Dana said. Ren frowned. "Or a trap." Eli looked down at the map in his hand, then at the markings still scrawled on the concrete ledge they had emerged from. The red triangle was here, too. Only one way to know. They moved cautiously toward the compound, fanning out and keeping low. Ren scouted ahead through overgrowth, while Eli and Dana pushed Beck's cart down the gravel trail. It felt wrong to make so much noise in a world that had thrived on silence. They reached the perimeter and crouched near a fence half swallowed by vines. The front gate hung slightly open. No guards. No movement. Eli stepped forward, raising his hands. "We're survivors," he called. "We followed the map. We heard the signal." No response. Then a voice, mechanical but warm, echoed from a speaker above the gate. "Welcome. You found Eden." The gate creaked open slowly. Everyone stared, unsure whether to celebrate or run. The gate opened with a low groan, revealing a narrow pathway bordered by stacked metal plates and solar panels covered in moss. It didn't feel like an ambush. It felt planned. Like someone had been expecting them for a long time. No one spoke as they entered. Even Beck, usually quick with a joke, remained silent, eyes darting. The compound was quiet, too quiet, no movement, no guards, just a faint hum of power somewhere beneath their feet. The grass underfoot was soft, and the air had a strange warmth, not from the sun, but from buried systems running somewhere below the surface. Then a voice broke the silence. "You can lower your weapons." The group turned in unison. A woman stood at the far end of the courtyard, hands raised in peace. She was older, mid-40s maybe, but moved with a confidence they all recognized, survivor energy. She wore a military-grade jacket and boots, patched but functional. Her hair was short and silver-streaked. Eyes sharp as glass. "I'm Commander Alira Cross," she said. "You made it farther than anyone has in 2 years." Eli stepped forward cautiously. "You're the one who sent the signal." She nodded. "The last map. The path through the tunnels. All mine." Ren didn't lower her crossbow. "Why?" "Because we needed the right kind of people," Cross said simply. "People who wouldn't give up. People who could survive the zone." Dana stepped beside Eli. "What is this place?" Cross gestured to the compound. "We call it Eden. It's a black site, military developed during the early outbreak. Top secret. When the cities fell, Eden sealed itself off from the world. But now, we need others. The dead are evolving." The group exchanged glances. "Evolving?" Cross didn't flinch. "You've seen them, how they hunt in patterns, use shadows, even ambush. That didn't happen in year 1. Something's changing. And we're trying to figure out what before it's too late." Leo stepped forward, voice soft but steady. "You think there's still a way to stop it?" Cross looked at him for a long moment. "I don't know. But I know this, we can't win alone." She turned and began walking deeper into the compound. "Come on. You need food. Rest. And answers." Inside the main building, they found something they hadn't seen in years: warmth. Literal and emotional. Hot soup, running water, clean cots. Dozens of people worked quietly throughout the facility, some wearing uniforms, others dressed like scavengers. A mix of survivors who had followed the same map. Cross led them into a secure room filled with monitors, maps, and blinking equipment. One large screen displayed a detailed layout of the dead zone, color-coded, constantly updating. "This is what we're up against," she said, pointing to the red zones. "Sector 9 is gone. Sector 10 fell last week. We have maybe 100 survivors scattered across remaining outposts. We're trying to guide them here, but we needed a test run." Ren raised an eyebrow. "We're the test run?" Cross nodded. "And you passed." Beck wheeled forward, frowning. "So what now? You want us to help you run missions?" "Eventually, yes," Cross said. "But first, we need you to rest. Then, I'll show you what we're really protecting." That night, Eli couldn't sleep. Too many questions. Too many memories. He sat on a bench outside the barracks, looking up at the stars, visible for the first time in forever. Ren joined him, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. "You believe her?" she asked. "I believe she thinks she's telling the truth." "That's not the same." "No," he said, "it's not." They both stared into the night, the silence oddly soothing, until the alarm blared. A piercing siren echoed across Eden, followed by a voice, "Perimeter breach. Sector 3. Unknown movement." Eli and Ren jumped to their feet. Dana ran from the barracks, Beck wheeling close behind. Cross met them at the gate, armed and furious. Scanners picked up movement. Fast. Wrong body heat signature. "Zombie?" Eli asked. "Maybe. But we've seen this pattern before." They rushed toward the west fence, lights cutting through the night. There, just beyond the barrier, stood something humanoid. Alone. Motionless. Leo aimed a light on it, and gasped. It wasn't a normal infected. Its skin was pale, almost translucent. Its eyes glowed faintly green, unblinking. Its chest rose and fell, deliberate. Controlled. And then, it moved. Fast. It vanished into the trees before anyone could react. Ren broke the silence. That wasn't a zombie. That was thinking. Cross looked grim. That was one of them. They're not just evolving. They're changing the rules. The next morning, Eden was on high alert. Guards were doubled. Drones scanned the treeline in tight circles. Spotlights swept through the surrounding forest every 3 seconds. But no one had seen anything since the creature vanished into the shadows. Eli stood with Cross in the surveillance hub, staring at the grainy freeze frame on the monitor. The thing's face, pale, elongated, almost human but not, glared back like it had been studying them. "Have you seen one like this before?" Eli asked quietly. Cross didn't take her eyes off the screen. 3 times. Always alone. Always watching. Ren entered, crossbow slung across her back. "So why didn't it attack?" "Because it didn't have to," Cross replied. "It wanted us to know it's out there." Beck rolled in behind her, chewing on a protein bar. "Okay, but what is it? A smarter zombie?" "More than that," Cross said. "We call them alphas." Leo, who'd been scribbling in his notebook from the corner, looked up. "Alphas?" "Short for alpha strain," she explained. "Some of the infected are mutating. Not just physically, mentally. The virus is adapting. It's using them as scouts, commanders, even decoys. They don't just hunt. They plan." A heavy silence settled over the group. Beck muttered, "Great. Now the dead come with IQ scores." Cross tapped a flashing marker on the map. "We tracked its path. It came from deep inside the western hills, uncharted territory. If we want to stop these things, we need to understand them." "You're thinking recon?" Ren asked. Cross nodded. "A scouting mission. Low profile. Gather intel, confirm the presence of more alphas, then get out." Eli frowned. "You said it yourself, Sector 9 is suicide." Cross looked him dead in the eye. "So was the dead zone. But you made it." By midday, the team was assembled: Eli, Ren, Leo, Dana, and a new face, Mira, a quiet, heavily scarred tracker from Eden who spoke with her eyes more than her voice. They packed light, no heavy guns, only silent weapons and solar-charged comms. Cross handed them a palm-sized beacon. "If you encounter an alpha, press this. It'll mark your coordinates and ping Eden. But be warned, use it, and they'll know where you are too." Leo slipped it into his jacket. "So basically, it's a flare and a bullseye." "Pretty much," Cross replied. "That's why you don't press it unless you're sure." They left Eden under the cover of a low cloud bank, traveling west through terrain that had swallowed entire caravans. Trees stood like silent sentinels, their trunks blackened with ash, their branches twisted like claws. Even the birds avoided this place. Mira led the way, tracking the alpha's prints through moss and soil. Every so often, she'd raise a closed fist to signal a stop, kneeling to inspect scratches on bark or faint blood trails. No one spoke. Silence had become their second skin. They camped that night beneath an overturned railcar. No fire. Just protein packs and silence. Ren sat beside Eli, watching the trees. "You really think there's more of them?" Eli's voice was low. "I think the alphas are just the start." In the early hours, Mira woke them all with a sharp whistle. "Tracks fresh." And something else. They followed her to a small clearing, where the trees opened into a makeshift camp, abandoned but not long ago. Scattered gear. Burnt-out torches. A ripped flag marked with the same triangle that had led them to Eden. Leo picked it up slowly. This was another group. "From Eden?" Dana asked. "No," Eli said, turning it over. "This is older. Someone else found the path before us." Ren found a recorder buried in a rusted ammo box. She played it. A man's voice came through, shaky, gasping. "We tried to follow the map, but they were already here. They don't just hunt you. They wait. They study. It's not survival anymore, it's a test. And we're failing." Then static. Eli crushed the recorder shut. "We need to move." Mira froze suddenly, eyes locked on a ridge beyond the clearing. She raised a finger. There, standing half obscured by trees, was another alpha. It stood perfectly still. Watching. Then, it blinked. Ren raised her crossbow, but Mira grabbed her arm. "No," she whispered. "It wants us to shoot." The alpha tilted its head, and smiled. Then it turned and walked calmly into the woods. Leo's voice cracked. It smiled. Eli finally spoke. "It knows who we are." The forest was no longer just trees and wind. After what they had seen, the alpha watching them, smiling, every branch felt like a warning. Every shadow, a trap. The group moved fast but cautiously, following Myra's lead along a winding path marked only by scuffed earth and broken branches. "This doesn't feel right," Ren whispered, crossbow aimed low. "That thing didn't run. It walked away, like it wanted us to follow." "We're not chasing it," Eli replied, glancing at the tracker Cross had given them. "We're getting proof." "That's it." Mira paused ahead, kneeling beside a long gouge in the soil. Multiple prints. Not just one alpha. Maybe 4. All moving together. Dana let out a low breath. "They're forming packs now?" Leo held tightly to his notebook, scribbling symbols and positions as fast as he could. "Wolves don't hunt alone. Not once they find a target." Eli looked back at the trees. "And we just became one." They pressed deeper into the western ridge, where even the air felt denser. Mira led them through a ravine where the ground dropped suddenly, revealing a wide trench carved into the forest floor. It was unnatural, deep and lined with jagged steel, like an old barricade or trench warfare remnant. At the bottom were bones. Hundreds of them. Dana covered her mouth. This was a kill zone." "No," Mira said quietly, scanning the layout. "It was a test." Ren frowned. "What kind of test?" Mira pointed to a series of blood-streaked symbols on a metal slab, the same red triangle that led them to Eden, but defaced, scratched over with something new, an X inside a circle. "Someone else marked this," Leo said. "They found this place first, and didn't make it out." Eli took a cautious step forward. "They're leaving messages for each other. The alphas, they know how we think. They want us to feel like we're discovering something when really, they're guiding us." The group moved along the trench's edge until they found a narrow tunnel carved into a hillside. Mira raised a hand, pausing. "The scent changes here. Oil. Fuel. Rot." They entered slowly, torches lit. The tunnel was tight, the air stale. On the walls were more markings, handprints, some human, others elongated, inhuman. The passage twisted until it opened into a hollowed-out chamber, once a bunker or outpost long abandoned. But it wasn't empty. Lined along the walls were bodies, recent, their eyes wide and mouths frozen mid-scream. They bore no bite marks. No blood. Just shock and stillness. Leo's voice broke. They weren't killed. They were scared to death. Ren backed away. This isn't a nest. It's a message. Suddenly, the radio on Eli's hip crackled to life. Eden to scout team. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy? Eli snatched it up. Eden, this is Navarro. We've found something. Confirm Alpha presence, multiple. They're not attacking. They're staging. Cross's voice came back, strained. We know. Eden is under siege. One of them breached the perimeter. It didn't attack, it mapped our defense grid. Then it left. Like it was learning. Myra's face went pale. They're sinking attacks. Eli turned to the others. We have to get back. Now. They retraced their steps through the tunnel, but when they reached the trench, Myra stopped cold. The forest had changed. It looked the same, but it was wrong. Too still. The trail they'd made had vanished. The sun was dimmer, and the birds were gone. We've been turned around, Myra said. They've shifted the terrain somehow. Leo looked up, terrified. They're controlling the environment? Ren scanned the treeline. No. But they studied how we navigate. They predicted we'd return this way, and rerouted us. Then came a soft sound. A clicking. Slow. Deliberate. From the trees, 5 figures stepped out. Not zombies. Alphas. They stood upright. Calculated. One of them held a weapon, an old combat knife strapped to its arm with cords. Another wore the tattered remnants of a soldier's jacket. They didn't charge. They waited. And then, the one in the front, the one they'd seen smile, spoke. Just one word. Observe. Eli's blood ran cold. The alphas turned and vanished back into the woods, leaving no footprints. Leo whispered, they're not just evolving, they're documenting us. Dana clutched her medkit. How do we fight something that studies our every move? Eli held up the tracker, thumb hovering over the beacon button. We don't fight them here. He pressed it. A silent pulse surged into the sky. Now they know where we are, Ren said. Eli nodded. Good. So does Eden. Above, drones from the compound streaked toward the forest. But so did something else. A distant howl. Not mindless. Coordinated. The hunt had begun. The sky darkened faster than it should have. Clouds rolled in, low and unnatural, casting eerie shadows across the trees. The wind had no scent. No movement. Just a pressure, like the world was holding its breath. From the forest behind them came no pursuit. The alphas had spoken their message and disappeared. But that was the part that chilled Eli the most. They could have killed the team. But they didn't. They let them go. Why aren't they chasing us? Leo asked, nearly breathless as he scrambled over roots and ducked under low branches. Because they don't have to, Eli replied, eyes scanning the canopy. They're forcing us to run on our own. Like rats in a maze. Mira, ever calm, took the lead. If we keep north, we'll hit the fallback drone route. Eden should intercept our position in less than 30 minutes. Ren checked her crossbow as she ran. You're assuming Eden's still there. They're smart, Eli said. But Cross is smarter. Still, doubt flickered in his chest. The beacon pulsed in his pack, a soft glow every few seconds. Their lifeline, and a signal flare for everything in this forest that wanted them dead. Minutes stretched into a tense silence. Then, the sharp hum of rotors overhead broke through the canopy. A recon drone swept past, scanning the forest with blue light. Mira stopped in a clearing and pulled a small mirror from her vest, flashing a signal. The drone paused, recalibrated, then dropped a container suspended on a thin cable. It landed softly in the brush, hissing open with a burst of cold air. Inside, medical supplies, 2 oxygen shots, water packs, and one critical item, a flare pistol with a coded GPS chip. Eli grabbed it. "This'll pinpoint us to Eden's evac team." He turned to Mira. "How long before the Alphas figure that out?" "They already have," she replied, raising her weapon. "Listen." They all stopped. The forest was quiet, but not silent. Voices. Human. Crying for help. Leo tensed. "That's someone out there." "No," Ren said firmly. "That's bait." Eli narrowed his eyes. "They're mimicking human voices now?" Dana whispered, "That's not possible." "It is if they've been studying us long enough," Mira muttered. "They're not hunting with teeth anymore. They're hunting with fear." Suddenly, the forest around them lit with red dots, laser markers from Eden's automated security network. Then came the voice in Eli's earpiece. "Scout team, this is Eden Recon. Hold your position. Extraction ETA 6 minutes. Do not engage." Eli exhaled. "We're close." But the forest wasn't done with them. From the trees came figures, half seen, silent. Not running. Stalking. "They're closing in," Ren hissed, raising her bow. Mira planted a smoke charge in the center of the clearing and activated it. A thick gray mist burst upward, masking them instantly. "We move now." They darted into the fog, following Myra's lead. The smoke slowed the Alphas, but not for long. Eli could hear them, feet crunching soil, blades scraping against trees. Then something worse, laughter. Low. Inhuman. Mocking. Leo stumbled, but Eli grabbed his arm and pulled him forward. "Stay with us." The GPS flare in Eli's hand blinked green. 40 meters. Behind them, the trees erupted as 2 Alphas burst from the smoke, eyes glowing faintly green, teeth clenched like they were trying not to scream. Ren fired. The bolt hit one in the shoulder, it flinched, snarled, but didn't fall. Dana turned and lobbed a flash canister. A blinding burst lit the trees, giving them just enough time to reach the extraction zone, a small ridge overlooking a narrow valley. A dropship hovered above, cables dropping down. "Go!" Eli yelled, lifting Leo toward the cable. Ren climbed second. Mira third. Dana grabbed Beck's harness and began pulling, but something yanked her back. An Alpha. It had grabbed her arm from behind a tree, pulling her into the shadows. "Dana!" Eli lunged and slashed at the creature with his machete. Blood, not black, but dark crimson, splattered across the dirt. The Alpha let go, vanishing into the woods with a hiss. Dana scrambled into the harness, eyes wide with horror but alive. Eli was last. As he climbed, he looked back one final time. The Alpha stood at the tree-line, wounded but smiling again. Then, it raised its hand, slowly, and pointed at Eli. Not as a threat. As a mark. "You've been chosen." Back aboard the dropship, the team sat in silence as Eden disappeared behind the trees. Cross greeted them at the landing zone, eyes scanning the blood, the bruises, the fear. "You brought back more than data," she said. Eli nodded grimly. "They know we're watching." Cross looked at him. "No. They want us to." Ren stepped off the ramp, holding up the flare pistol. "They weren't hunting us," she said. "They were observing how we respond to being hunted." Eden was no longer calm. Since the team returned, alarms had been intermittent, security tightened, and all comms scrambled every 4 hours. Cross had ordered total lockdown. No one in or out without her direct approval. And yet, no attack had come. That silence was what frightened everyone the most. In the command room, Eli stood with Cross, Mira, and Ren, reviewing the drone footage. Pixelated shapes moved like ghosts through the tree-line just beyond Eden's perimeter. Never close enough to trigger defense systems. Never too far to be ignored. "They're probing," Mira said. "Testing our response times. Our weak spots." Cross crossed her arms. "And they're doing it without a single bite." "No casualties?" Ren asked. "None," Cross confirmed. "Just movement. Just pressure." Dana entered, bandaged but alert. "They're not trying to get in. They're trying to get into our heads." Cross turned to Eli. "You said one of them marked you." Eli nodded. He didn't speak. Just pointed. And smiled. Like he knew I'd be the one to bring the message. Cross stepped forward, lowering her voice. "Then listen closely, because this is the part no one here is ready to hear." She pulled a cover off a nearby table. Beneath it lay a corpse, gray, veined, and still faintly warm. It wasn't a typical zombie. Its skin was intact. Its eyes, half closed, no signs of rot. "This one was found near our west perimeter 2 nights ago," Cross explained. "No wounds. No signs of infection." Ren leaned in. "Then what is it?" "An alpha. Dead, but not destroyed. No head trauma. No bullet holes. Just collapsed." Cross tapped a tablet. Autopsy revealed something else. "There's no virus in its blood. Not in the way we understand it." Leo, who had silently entered and been listening from the corner, finally spoke. "Then it's not infection, it's transformation." Everyone turned. Cross nodded slowly. "That's what we've started to believe." She clicked to the next image, brain scans. The Alpha's neural network was lit up like a storm. Before it died, its brain was more active than a human's. No decay. Just pure, overloaded activity. Eli's mouth was dry. "You're saying these things aren't the result of the virus, they're the next phase of it." Myra's voice was flat. "An intelligent strain." Leo added, "One that doesn't destroy the brain, but enhances it." No one spoke for several seconds. Then Cross dropped the final detail. "This one? We didn't kill it. It died on its own. Burned out. Like it gave too much, or sent too much." Ren frowned. "Sent?" Cross looked at them. "Think about it. They observed you. Marked you. Let you live. What if you're part of the message?" Eli suddenly remembered the Alpha's finger, slowly pointing at him, not as a threat, but a warning. Or a delivery system. "I need to be scanned," he said. "Now." The lab was cold, lit in pale green as Tex ran a full bioscan on Eli. His blood, brain activity, cellular integrity. All normal. No virus. No signs of change. Except one thing. "There's a signal pattern," the technician said, staring at the screen. "Microscopic pulses. Not audible. Not visible. But something inside you is emitting them. Like you're carrying a silent beacon." Eli's stomach turned. "They marked me physically." "No," Cross said from the observation window. "They marked you biologically." Ren stepped in, furious. "We brought that signal back here." "And they wanted you to," Cross said. "They've already mapped us. Now they're infecting ideas." Myra's voice was grave. "This isn't about killing anymore. It's about control." Cross leaned on the glass. "They've studied how we react, how we survive, how we rebuild. And now they know something we've been afraid to admit." Eli met her eyes. "That were predictable." The silence that followed felt like confirmation. Outside, the sirens wailed again. This time, a full red alert. Perimeter breach, multiple points. From the roof of the command center, the view was chilling. The Alphas were approaching, not in a horde, but a formation. Lines. Units. A coordinated front. They moved like a military. Cross didn't hesitate. Evac Plan Delta. We abandon Eden. It's compromised. Where do we go? Ren asked. North, Cross said. There's one last fallback. A place no map dares show. Leo's eyes widened. Another map? No, Cross said, gripping the railing as explosions shook the earth. A memory. Eden burned. From the northern ridgeline, Eli looked back one final time. Plumes of black smoke twisted into the sky like the ghosts of what once was, a sanctuary, a secret, now just another chapter in the long story of humanity's downfall. The Alphas didn't rush. They advanced with eerie calm, pressing into Eden like it belonged to them all along. Beside him, Cross gritted her teeth. This was never the endgame. Just a checkpoint. The group had split into squads, small, silent units, scattered like embers into the forest. Eli's team, Ren, Leo, Mira, Dana, and Beck, moved fast, guided only by Cross's voice over shortwave and a simple phrase she kept repeating. The memory isn't on paper. It's in us. They followed an old riverbed north, terrain growing colder, steeper. The trees gave way to rock walls, overgrown cables, and remnants of a monorail track buried beneath vines. Not a place on any map. But Cross had insisted it was once real. Ren scanned the horizon. You trust her? She survived this long, Eli said. And she hasn't been wrong yet. Leo caught up, panting, holding a notebook filled with scribbled patterns. I think I understand now. Understand what? Dana asked. Leo flipped open to a page showing overlapping symbols. The triangles, the circles, the defaced signs, their memory codes. From someone who wanted others to find the path. Beck, bouncing in the wheeled rig Dana was dragging, leaned in. So these markings weren't just maps? Leo nodded. They were breadcrumbs. Left by those who knew we'd eventually be forced to leave Eden. Mira stopped up ahead, staring at a carved stone wall overrun with moss. She cleared a patch, revealing a symbol, a triangle with an arrow inside it, pointing downward. I've seen this, Eli whispered. Back in Sector 3. A doorway no one could open. Ren brushed off the dirt around the symbol. Below it were words etched in faded paint. Only the living remember. Only the marked survive. Eli's heart pounded. I'm marked. Mira stepped aside. Then it has to be you. He pressed his palm to the symbol. A low click echoed behind the wall, followed by the grinding of ancient gears. A hidden passage opened, revealing stone stairs spiraling downward into cold blackness. Ren peered inside. If this is a trap, it's a damn good one. Eli stepped into the dark. It's not. This is what they didn't want us to find. The staircase led to a wide underground atrium, old tech fused with natural rock. Solar-powered lights flickered to life as they stepped through. The air was still, dry. Long rows of bunkers lined the walls, each with dust-covered glass doors. In the center of the chamber was a massive console, military-grade, ancient, still operational. Leo whistled. This place, it's a vault. Mira read the writing on the walls. Facility 47A, Project, Continuum. Dana walked slowly along the bunkers. These are cryopods. Ren stopped in front of a plaque. In the event of systemic collapse, preserve knowledge, not bodies. Knowledge, Eli repeated. This is it. This is what Cross meant. The memory. He approached the console and activated the main screen. A holographic map flickered to life, showing the entire dead zone, before the collapse. City layouts. Supply chains. Hidden outposts. Safe zones that had never been discovered. But most of all, data on the Alpha strain. Files open one by one. Videos. Logs. Voice notes. A scientist spoke. The Alpha mutation is not a byproduct. It's a signal receiver. A hive mechanism. They don't think individually. They interpret commands sent across a neural broadcast system. Another log. If the source of the signal is disrupted, the alphas will lose cohesion. This is the only way to stop them without triggering full extinction. Eli turned to the others. The virus isn't what we thought. It's being controlled, remotely. Beck blinked. So the alphas, they're not leading the dead. They're being led. Leo stepped forward, pointing at a blinking red icon at the northern edge of the map. That's where it's coming from. The source. Ren leaned closer. That zone's completely blacked out. It's off-grid. No, Eli said. It's where we go next. Behind them, the stairwell lights flickered. Then, footsteps. Eli spun around, weapon raised. Cross emerged, bloodied, limping, but alive. You made it, she said, smiling faintly. You knew this place existed, Ren said. Cross nodded. I didn't know where. But I remembered it. That's what Project Continuum was, pass the memory to those who could carry it. Survivors. Leaders. The marked. Eli stared at the map. This is our last chance, isn't it? Cross looked at him, eyes full of grit. We don't just run anymore. We don't just survive. She pointed at the source. We take the fight to them. End of Part 8, Final.